Here with me this morning for our Inside the Newsroom discussion, Deseret News editor Doug Wilks. So every week you're going to come in here and I get to grill you about what's going on out there in the newsroom.
We'll try to make it interesting.
I got a lot of questions for you.
All right.
But this one, we're waiting now for President Trump to decide just what he's going to do. And it sounds like he's going to shrink it a little bit from the earlier proclamation. But do people care?
Well, that's one of the questions. Anytime we write a headline with bear's ears in the headline, people sometimes turn the page.
Right.
But we looked at 27 monuments. They're not going to remove any of the monument designations, so it's really a question of size. Escalante, that's a 2-decade-old monument. It was very controversial when Bill Clinton went actually to the edge of the Grand Canyon and did that, which made Utahns angry. But this is really a story about people and people's use of the land and being good stewards of the land.
It's an interesting dilemma because you've got the folks in those areas where this has a significant impact. Then you got the rest of the state, most of the population, that doesn't even know where those areas are, and yet the debate goes back and forth.
Well, clearly the popularity of our national parks, the monuments, the wilderness itself, very important to Utahns. But people have different wants. For example, we just saw this piece, and she's looking at solitude. She's making a living, but she also goes out there on their own to collect. This is a complicated issue. It's not energy versus environmentalists. Sometimes politically we look at it that way, but that's really not the story.
It's almost like you're either, if you're for it, you're with this party. If you're against it, you're with this party, and there can't be any common ground.
Yeah, but that's not how we live, right?
Right.
It's like we want to be there, we want to protect it. Most Utahns want nothing to do with hurting the land. But there are uses for the land, and there's got to be room for energy, there's got to be room for wilderness, there's got to be room for Native Americans to fulfill their heritage and their history.
So as editor of the newspaper, you get to present your opinion, which you are in today's paper in your editorial, but you get to steer the talking points toward a certain end. What do you want to see happen here?
We want people to really listen and make up their own minds about the best way to be stewards of the land. We've put reporters and photographers on horseback riding the range. We've put photographer Spencer Heaps out there going quietly, walking, listening, the natural sounds of the area, the water. This is a rich heritage, and we've also wanted to preserve certainly the artifacts, which is really what motivated this. You have to preserve the artifacts, otherwise everything's lost for future generations.
If President Trump had come out, or President Obama, and declared those monuments but smaller, would we have ever even been talking about it?
I think we'd be talking about it always just because people care about the land. But there really are diversity of opinions on how large the protections should be and what kind of protections, because with every kind of designation, there's a different kind of use.
All right, Editor Doug Wilks, Inside the Newsroom. Get comfortable over there.
All right, Dave.
I got a lot more questions for next week. Thanks, Doug.